Hiya, everybody! Welcome to the next installment in my video lecture series I've titled the semi-ridiculous name, Winformation Tactics. These videos focus on the three core tenets to winning in a battle royale type game. Those being positioning, first contact, and weapon proficiency. Last time, we looked at the most important of the three skills in my opinion, which is positioning. So it goes to follow that today we'll be jumping into the next category to discuss the particulars of first contact with an enemy. First contact, as the name implies, is fairly self-explanatory. It refers to the first moments of conflict between two people or two groups of people. I've found that in Warzone, the first moments of an exchange generally dictate the rest of the fight for the large majority of the encounters you'll have within Warzone. The time to kill is so low, 700 to 800 milliseconds on average, that coming out ahead during the first initial few moments of a fight vastly increases your chances of staying alive. I've broken the concept of first contact with enemy combatants into a few different, easier to understand subcategories. Holding the advantage, playing to your strengths, which includes what weapon choices you've made and also what weapon the enemy is carrying, and recovering under pressure. Holding the advantage, as the name implies, means giving ourselves a better than 50% chance to win the engagement, whether that's through our position, or the position of the enemy, or the tactics that we use to engage the enemy. This obviously isn't always under our control. Neither our own position, nor the position of the enemy is 100% under our control in a battle royale. This is due to the random nature of how a match unfolds in real time. We can only make decisions with the information we have at any given moment, and since that information is always being dynamically generated, we are just as likely to be wrong as we are to be right in hindsight. In this way, the concept of how to hold the advantage is more of a journey than a destination. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, boys. There's no quick and easy way to instantly having these skills that we're discussing in this lecture. Gaining, holding, and using the advantage is 99% knowledge-based. That knowledge is built up over many hours of in-game play, figuring out the map, the weapons, our own strengths, and common enemy patterns. As stated before, unfortunately, there is really no easy way to learn the map other than just playing the game. Studying the actual map itself is useful when making callouts, knowing the points of interests, how they relate and interconnect, and knowing the general directions that enemies might be coming from. But to really understand the choke points, climb spots, flank routes, and general lanes people use to move from place to place, you actually have to spend hours in those areas of the map. Using your own experience can provide context to where you are and where the enemy might be coming from. The second part of holding the advantage is knowing the weapons. Most important is knowing your own loadout, but also important is knowing the loadout of the enemy, so you can know whether you need to push, flank, or retreat, and what range to stay in to maximize your advantage. Compared to map knowledge, I'd say learning the weapons is pretty straightforward. There are a multitude of online databases you can use to compare weapons and see the stats in different attachments and loadouts. I myself use TrueGameData.com and JGod here on YouTube as fairly complete data-driven weapon analysis resources. Once you've acquired enough knowledge and experience, you should be able to understand how to be in the right spot in any given area of the map. Of course, knowing the right spot and actually being able to get to that spot are two entirely separate things. As briefly touched on before, having the advantage means being at the right distance to the enemy, which means knowing the most effective distance to deal the most damage as quickly as possible for the weapon that you're using. Alternatively, it could also mean being the right distance away from the enemy to make the enemy's damage as low as possible based on the weapon they're using, if you've been lucky enough to know that information. Here's a quick example to illustrate my point. Let's say you have an assault rifle equipped and the enemy has a submachine gun. In this situation, your ideal distance from the enemy would be beyond 30 meters. That is the minimum drop-off for the vast majority of submachine guns in the game. Outside of 30 meters, your AR would have a very fast time to kill comparatively to the enemy's submachine gun, so you would be giving yourself a very good advantage. Let's imagine a different scenario. Let's say this time you have a shotgun and the enemy has an AR. Even though this damage goes up, as you get closer, your damage drops significantly faster at distance, so you'd want to be closer than 12 meters to maximize your damage. Obviously, you need to get as close as possible, as fast as possible, and that's what most people call pushing. Which brings us to our next point, knowing when to push. Mostly, it's about putting the enemy into a state of mind where they are less likely to exit cover or peek your direction while you are moving towards them. The first and most common way to do this is to damage them before pushing, so you can assume they're trying to heal themselves behind cover, thus giving you precious time to reposition, aka sprint at them like a maniac. Another way to make sure the enemy is not going to peek is to use the tools the game provides that give you some time, while they are either disoriented or afraid of peeking. These tools include your tactical equipment, stun grenades and flash grenades, and certain kill streak awards that prohibit the enemy movement, such as airstrikes and cluster bombs. Using your gear correctly is one of the most important components that a lot of players have trouble with, whether that's because they haven't developed the habit or just don't remember to use it. Even I, after thousands of hours in competitive first-person shooters, often lose fights I could have won if I'd just utilized my gear more appropriately. The power of tactical gear in this game can never be understated, especially in the current meta. Stuns and snapshot grenades are probably the most powerful tools you have at either pushing an entrenched opponent or stopping someone from pushing you. But don't worry, no matter how many times I tell you to remember, you're going to forget, and you're going to end up losing your side of an engagement. So, another key skill to develop is what scientists call running the fuck away, or my professional, more tactful description of said skill, recovering under pressure. Although I was joking about it, recovering under pressure is more than just running away. It includes repositioning, reloading, healing, which in Warzone's case means replating, and re-engaging when the time is right. Sometimes the right move in a fight is to not fight at all. In Warzone, the most important step in running away, in my opinion, is replating. If you don't get your armor back on, you'll never win the fight, regardless of how much time or distance you've placed between you and your opponent. That is, of course, unless you've managed to evade your enemy to the point where they're no longer pursuing, either because you're too far away, or they've lost track of you. Still, the first step in recovering is getting your armor back to full, followed closely by reloading your weapon. And of course, the last step would be to re-engage any still pursuing foes. One of the most important benefits of running away is being able to make the decision when the time is right to turn and fight, which gives you a certain amount of unpredictability and surprise. I've often found the enemy is so thirsty for the kill they will pursue into terrible positioning themselves. Also, if the enemy is following closely behind you, that gives you the knowledge of where they will be, which corner they will be coming from, which ledge they will be mounting over, or which doorway they will be entering, and that allows you to effectively center and commit to the shot. It's much more likely that you'll win an engagement when you have that information over the enemy. It's a similar equation to the concept of peekers or pushers advantage. Let's say you know where someone is camping. Using that information, you can give yourself an advantage because you can time your own aggression. If you can pick the moment the fight begins, then you're ready on the trigger to begin firing as soon as you come around the corner on the enemy position. The camping enemy doesn't know when you'll be coming, so they will not be as prepared to start a fight as you will. Generally, you can get at least 1 or 2 bullets into the enemy before they even have a chance to react, making it highly likely that you will win the engagement. The same can be said for turning around and firing on a pursuing enemy. Since you're choosing when to engage in this scenario, the enemy won't know that they should be prepared for you to start firing. Generally, the enemy will assume you're going to continue running away, and if you turn and fight, that will sometimes give you a serious advantage over the enemy. Let's watch the last few moments of this fight. I give myself an advantage in the last 2 engagements because I know where the enemies are. I have more information, and I'm ready for the fight more so than the enemy. I also reposition slightly better than the other 2 enemies at the end of this game, thus giving me the victory. Next, we're going to look at some examples of recovering under pressure. You'll notice generally I try and replate first before anything else, once I've gotten away from the enemy. Sometimes I forget to replate because I'm too concerned with trying to get away from the enemy or trying to figure out where the next enemy might be pushing from. Sometimes I forget to reload, as in this first instance. You'll notice I forget to reload my weapon after I run away, replate, and try and re-engage. Fortunately, it works out for me because I end up taking the enemy down, but I have to switch to my other weapon in order to finish them off. After I take out that first enemy, you'll notice that I forget to replate. I only have 2 plates, but I have 5 in my inventory. Later I pick up a satchel and gives me 8, but yet I still forget to replate, because I'm too concerned with the enemies above me which I know are there. Here, you'll see me desperately trying to search the loot on the ground, trying to figure out what to pick up. I do notice this airstrike right away and decide to use it to try and stop the enemy from pushing. I don't know exactly where the enemy is, but I do know they're above me in the building. About this time, I also see that the circle is moving and notice that my plates are not full. I decide to plate up. Then, I run down this hallway and try and go up the steps to give myself a better position. I know that the last two enemies are above in the building, like I said, so I'm constantly searching the windows, trying to see people and where they might be coming from. I notice a guy peeking one of the windows, and I take some shots, but I can't down him. In just a moment, he jumps out and dies to someone below, which gives me the last information that I need to know how to finish the fight. Coincidentally, the next example also takes place in the same part of this map. I'm coming back from being dead and looking to pick up my gear again. Unfortunately, the man who killed me is still waiting around in the room I died in. I know he has an auto shotgun, so I decide to run away. Because I run immediately and don't wait, he cannot kill me with his auto shotgun. I put enough distance between myself and the enemy that he can't finish me off. I didn't manage to pick up my weapons, but I did manage to pick up some plates. So my next step is to plate up and re-engage the enemy. I think that maybe the enemy might have left that location and gone upstairs to be with his friends, so I try and go back and get my weapons again. Unfortunately, he's still here, and I end up taking the fight and winning. Me winning this fight was a fluke. He should have definitely won this fight with an auto shotgun against a pistol. Thankfully, because I picked up the enemy's auto shotgun, I can kill this guy and pick up the rest of my gear. Here's one final example of recovering under pressure. I'm going up to the roof now and end up seeing a guy and taking him out immediately. I notice his teammate on the minimap after I take him out. I try and take the fight, but he gets better shots than I do, which makes me retreat and replate in the corner. As I'm replating, I see him pass by. Did you see him? Let's go back. I'll show you. Here he goes. Next, we're going to take a look at a duo win that I had the other day with a random teammate. Try and notice how I use my equipment, positioning, and advantage to win fights. I don't always have the right position. I don't always have the best advantage. Sometimes my mechanical skill can make up for my deficiencies in trying to figure out what the best move is. I'm not going to talk much over the rest of this video. I'm just going to let it play out and you can watch and see how you like it.
Got a loadout right here. Oh, guys. Just driving. Hold on. Oh, I think he pushed. Yeah, I see him now. Oh, he's so screwed.
RTB for resupply.
Yeah, this guy's not posted. Don't take that car. I put a mine on it. Nice. Oh shit, I got sniped.
Be advised, UAV is bingo fuel. RTB for resupply. Be
Nice.
advised, UAV.
Okay, I got in the wrong one.
Friendly precision airstrike inbound.
Oh, just get my breath getting high. My breath's getting high.
To the left.
I downed him. I downed him. Go. Threats high. Why?
Gas is closing in. Relocating the safe zone.
Down your right. Oh yeah, so they're right there in front of you.
Closing in.
Doing that there, right there. Nice.
Relocating the safe zone.